I'm Dr. Shalina Nair from Usmania General Hospital. My mentor and guide is Professor Lakshmi Palakuri, HOD of Plastic Surgery Department of Usmania General Hospital. Next slide, please. I have been given the case of a 19-year-old lady who comes with the complaints of recurrent swelling involving her left forearm and hand. Next slide, please. History of present illness. This is a 19-year-old lady who has presented with the complaints of recurrent swelling, left forearm and hand. I would like to ask her the size when she had first noticed it. This has gradually increased in size to the present size. No history of pain, pruritus, ulceration or bleeding. She was operated for a similar swelling 3 years back, and that was diagnosed as a vascular swelling. No history of any similar swellings in the past. So I would like to ask her about the history of the previous swelling as to when she first noticed it. When was it present when she was born, or when she was a child, and any history of any spontaneous, whether it was spontaneous or any history of injury is present. Next slide, please. Past history: patient had a known case of AVM of left hand and forearm, operated 3 years back. And I would like to ask about the associated cardiac history, also the history of any increasing size in the limb which she had noticed, or any abnormal sounds comes from the swellings. Personal history about addictions, and family history, nothing as significant has been there. So would like to check the build and nourishment of the patient: pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing and pedal edema. Would like to see whether any significant generalized lymphadenopathy is there. Systemic, mainly cardiac system for any decompensation, and abdomen for any hepatic enlargement. Next, on local examination, on inspection, I would like to examine the whole upper limb. What has been given is the photo of this left forearm and hand held in a semi-prone position. I can see a healed scar which is extending from the radial side of the forearm and into the ulnar side, and then going into the palm of the previous surgery. In the palm it is quite inconspicuous, and over the forearm the scar is slightly widened, and there is an area of puckering. Then multiple diffuse ill-defined swellings in the palm and distal forearm can be seen. Skin over the swellings appear normal. Skin over the lesion in the palm, which is here, appears to be shiny and has mild purple hue. I would like to check for visible pulsations, and I can see prominent veins in the forearm radial and ulnar side. Arch of the palm in the wrist area appears to be flattened, and rest of the hand and forearm appears to be normal. Next slide, please.
Abhinandan,
Next slide.
Change the slide, no?
On palpation, I would like to confirm the inspectory findings and look for tenderness. I've been told that the swellings are warm, so temperature over the swelling in the hand and forearm are raised. The multiple swellings are seen in the palm, so borders appear to be diffuse. I would like to confirm the borders. Consistency has been told that it is soft and the swellings are compressible. I would like to check for emptying and refilling of the swellings, and it has been told that it is palpable, and the swellings are pulsatile. So I would like to check for the expansal pulsations, and whether any reduction is there in size of the swelling by occluding the feeding vessel, and elevation of the hand, and whether it causes any elevation or position, any position of the hand causes any different variability in the size of the swelling. And if patient is compensated, then Nicolai-Brennan signs whether sudden bradycardia on compression of the feeding vessel is there or not. And Allen's test I would like to do and see which whether radial or ulnar, which artery contributes more to the swelling, by releasing whether the swelling immediately refills or not. Then I would also like to look for underlying bony erosions, distal pulsation, the pulsation in this veins, distal sensation, then the function of the hand or muscle power, movements in the wrist, MCP and IP joints. Then since a patient is 19-year-old, I would like to check for the circumference difference in the forearm and hand from fixed bony points, and whether there are any limb length discrepancy from fixed bony points, especially forearm and hand. And lastly, I would auscultate for bruit in the swellings. Next slide, please. My diagnosis is recurrent arteriovenous malformation left hand and forearm, Schrödinger stage 2, since there is thrill and pulsation in the swelling. So I would go to the investigations. Schrödinger staging. Yes, investigations. Like to do duplex ultrasonography to see the flow pattern of the swelling, and then MR angiography, and then previous biopsy has been given as consistent with AV malformation. So this is the MRI, which shows vascular channels around the palm and tortuous arteries. So that report says scattered nidus of tortuous vessels noted in the anterior aspect of the palm, in the thenar region, including the abductor pollicis muscle, and deep to palmar aponeurosis in relation with the flexor tendons of index finger beyond the carpal tunnel. AV malformation is fed by branches of radial and ulnar artery through the palmar arch. Early venous drainage into all the veins of the arm noted. Soft tissues appear normal. Impression is given as racemose arteriovenous malformation in the left palm, in the thenar region, and palmar aponeurosis with arterial feeders arising from both radial and ulnar arteries. Next slide. It's coming to the management. First, I would like to counsel the patient, saying, explaining to her the prognosis, because it is a recurrent swelling and it is extensive. So then, after explaining, I would like to go for embolotherapy. Then it might have multiple feeders. Then within 36 to 72 hours, plan for excision as complete as possible.
Sir, over to you, sir. Surajit, sir.
I think it's a very well investigated patient. The question is only when it comes to treatment. Now, you will have to sit with the intervention radiologist and reassure yourself that the thumb will be safe after sclerotherapy. Because if anything happens to the thumb, we are in a soup. Because there is an alternative still, and that alternative is put a tourniquet and try to extirpate everything surgically. Why take the risk of embolization, particularly with the thumb.
Yes, sir.
I am a bit hesitant, but if my interventionist says nothing doing, I am happy doing it, I will let him do.
Yes, sir.
At the base of the thumb, where the thinner muscles are involved,
Yes.
how well would the nidus be embolized, saving both the princeps pollicis and the indices? It's a difficult job.
So even if we do an excision, we cannot do a complete excision in this case because it's extending into the muscles. And
This is a relatively small AV malformation, and I think it can be tackled under tunicate control.
yes, sir.
Now, I honestly am chickening out of embolization.
Yes, sir.
Shalina,
Yes, sir.
if you are planning for embolization,
Yes.
are you planning for a radical excision or still there will be recurrence?
What is going to be the worst case scenario if you miss the nidus and the
Radical excision, I doubt whether it will be possible in.
Yeah. So it's as sir said, it's better to be safe than to
Yes.
be sorry, because
Yes.
preservation of thumb is very important.
Yes.
Of course, the planes may not be discernible
Yes.
when you go on exercise, but still under tunicate control, we can ligate slowly ligate all the feeder vessels, and it will be a messy job only.
Yes. Especially previously operated with.
Then, as sir said, I also won't venture in for embolization or sclerosant in the limbs.
Yes.
Shalina, where do you think the nidus is?
Somewhere palmar arch.
Okay, it would be somewhere in the, probably it might be in the palmar, this one. So the thing is, Shalina, what usual funda that is followed is, see, in this particular thing, once you do your MRI, you would be able to actually find out where exactly is the nidus, where is the concentration of all the vessels, and then they would be able to check out where the venous, where the with the this one of immediately after giving the contrast, they would be able to check out and tell you where exactly is it first filling. So according to that only, they will tell you, okay, this is most likely this is the location of the nidus. So our concentration would be to actually try to remove the nidus. All other things you can actually tackle later also, but if you can actually remove the nidus without causing much damage, that would be the best possible thing. The second thing is, because it is a limb, and okay, this is not a very large lesion, so you would be able to probably finish it off in one tunicate time. So in that case, you can actually plan out your surgery first, tackling the nidus first, and then you can actually try to remove it. The most important thing when you do this is that you have to actually get to localize all the proximal and distal vessels up front. So that is a key thing. So then you come towards, from the periphery, you come towards the center and wherever you think the nidus is, and then you can try to remove it, and then you can actually try to remove it safely also. Worst case scenario, which you shouldn't actually end up doing, is probably you might, worst case scenario, you have damaged the vessels to the thumb and things like that. You might have to think of even doing a microvascular repair of the vessels also, probably from distal to proximal. You will have to actually put in some venous grafts, and you'll have to probably explain all these things to your
patient and relative.
Patient and relative, and then only you have to get on with the surgery. See, it is possible to actually give an excellent result for this patient surgically, and usually you don't have to try to go for a interventional radiology and then try to actually decrease the thing, because it is a place where you can actually easily put in the tourniquet. So I think it's a thing that you can actually really do it decently well.
Yes.
Even though it is a recurrent, it's a recurrent case. Sir, Surjit sir, anything further, sir, to ask her? Dr. Lakshmi, anything you want to add or you want to ask Dr. Shalina? Dr. Lakshmi, are you able to hear?
Shalina,
Yes, ma'am.
so how do you approach the incision and lesion, and what precautions you take while doing the excision of this lesion?
Should be done under tourniquet control, and
You need to do the exsanguination.
exsanguination and tourniquet control, and probably ligate the feeding vessels, and then we could go through the same incision and then ligate the feeders and then try to excise the lesion as much as possible.
What would be your incisions?
I would like to go through the same.
Sure, the incision. Already it is there, you are telling, no?
Yes.
So show the incision, what you want to give. And MRI film is with you. So
I would like to open it through
and all you should tell.
previous scar, and if needed extra incision we might have to put for the thumb. But initially I would like to go through the previous
Where
scar.
is the nidus mainly situated? In the MRI you had seen, no?
Can you show with your
What is
cursor?
the nidus means?
Actually my cursor, I'm showing with my cursor. But,
okay. Abhinandan is having your, Abhinandan is really presenting. Okay. Right.
Oh, that is the reason she could not.
It is near the nidus should be somewhere near the palmar.
Yes, it is clearly shown, isn't it? It is subcutaneous as well as the subaponeurotic plane in between the muscles and the aponeurosis, the racemose vessels. So when you approach it, you give the incision, skin incision and the aponeurosis, and go carefully. You try to identify the nerves as well as the palmar arch and all. The abnormal vascular tissue only you have to remove. Okay, so you have to take care. There will be in a deeper plane, but when there is abnormal, that too recurrent AVM, the planes will not be as clear as the native plane also. So it's very carefully you have to do under magnification, identifying the normal structures. There will be palmar arches. Mostly the superficial palmar arch might have involved in this abnormal things. So deep palmar arch and the distal vessels, nerves you have to safeguard, and then excise the nidus, as everybody told. That is the important thing. Okay.
Yes.
So if you don't remove the nidus, there are every chances of getting the recurrence, right?
Yes.
So when you isolate this nidus, the feeders you can identify and ligate the feeders which are going directly into that.
Know that it is the nidus? I'm not very used
It's
to this.
like a mass like thing, abnormal multiple that is shown as a racemoses, as they said. They are
See,
the recurrent
Shalina,
one, it's very
Shalina,
difficult.
Yes.
Shalina,
Yes.
when you are doing a MR angiogram, Shalina, what they will do is
Yes.
they will take pictures very fast. Immediately after giving the contrast, they will keep taking the
Yes.
pictures very fast, very fast pictures they will take. Okay,
Yes.
so then they would know where the venous phase is starting.
Yes.
From the arterial phase to the venous phase, where the venous phase starts. So using
Yes.
that, they would be able to tell that, okay, this is the location of the nidus. That is how they actually find
Okay.
out the nidus. That is one
Okay.
point that I want to tell. Second point I want to tell is, no, regarding
Yes.
this particular, I mean, these kind of cases, these are cases where your incisions should be as large as your heart,
Yes.
because the incisions are very important for you to actually go to the native tissue with the normal looking tissue, and
Yes.
there you have to identify the vessels, the arteries and the nerves also, and
Yes.
you have to loop them all separately, and then you from there you actually come towards the main
Yes. Yes.
lesion and then remove the lesion.
That is the reason that incision, the entire incision you have to take, the forearm, wrist crease, that so just like a jed, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oblique incision on the forearm and wrist crease transverse and along with the thinner crease. Though the nidus is in the palm, the feeders are coming from the radial as well as ulnar arteries. Okay, so you have to display all the thing. You should not be in a hurry to excise the lesion, but you have to identify the branches coming from the radial and ulnar artery into the nidus and safeguard the normal structures, the nerves and the as far as possible the palmar arches and distal vessels. What is abnormal, then you have to remove after ligation of these multiple feeders.
Okay. Thank you.
So Rajat sir, you have any more questions to ask, sir? Radhakrishnan? Surajit sir? I think both Surajit sir and Radhakrishnan also, I think they temporarily gone. So,
Bhattacharya sir is there, he can ask some questions if he wants.
Sir?
And Shalna, after excising the nidus, if you have the doubt regarding the skin, as already it is told, the skin vascularity may be compromised. What will you do?
The skin which we feel is not vascular, then we will have to excise and plan for coverage, whichever. If it is closed, if it is possible to close, then we can close it primarily, or otherwise we will have to give a reconstruct.
Actually, it is very difficult to assess. Okay, so
Yes.
you can just put the stitches and go ahead and observe after 2 days. If there is any necrosis and all, you can excise. And if there is a vascular compromise of any skin also, that can be excised. And bed will be very it is difficult to control the bleeding and all. If harmonic scalpel is there, it is easy to attain the hemostasis. Otherwise, you can do the dressing and go for the secondary grafting also. Okay, once you control the bleeding, if the bed is good, then you can do the secondary grafting. Okay, so and if anything exposed vitals or anything, then later on you have to plan accordingly to cover the area with the flap or something, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So as Sandeep told, if there any injury to the, because the most of the lesion is situated in the palm as well as around the thumb. Okay, so you should take very care not to injure the vessel supplying to the thumb, and if there is any injury, you should be ready to do the repair.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the important precautions you have to take, and counsel the patient also regarding all these things which can happen, right? But
Yes.
excision of the nidus is the important part of the management of AVM.
Yes.
Okay,
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Bhattacharya sir,
So
sir, you please.
in this patient, after exsanguination and tourniquet, the first and the most important thing is the incision. I think this incision has to be preferably not through the previous scar.
Okay.
It should be normal tissue, because
Yes.
that way you will be able to identify the radial and the ulnar vessels in the forearm first. Right?
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
after you have identified the radial and the ulnar vessel, you
Yes.
take a bulldog clamp,
Yes.
a vascular clamp, and clamp both of these vessels.
Yes.
Now
Yes,
you gradually follow the radial artery and
Yes.
trace the arch.
Yes.
Anything which is not arch,
Yes.
you start pruning them from the surface of the radial artery. We do it by harmonic scalpel. You can do it by whatever modality you have.
Yes.
But start skeletonizing the arch.
Yes.
As soon as you are able to skeletonize the inner surface of the arch,
Yes.
you will be able to see the distal part of the arch. Now,
Yes.
in that distal part of the arch, if you watch the MRI, you
Yes.
should be expecting, instead of straight a common digital vessel and then ulnar and radial digital vessels, tortuous vessels.
Yes. Tortuous vessels.
Now identify each of the common digital vessels and
Yes.
anything which is there in between them, you start ligating them, so
Yes.
that to every web you are leaving behind one common digital vessel.
Yes.
That is all that you are leaving behind.
Yes.
What will tell you that this is a common digital vessel? The accompanying nerve.
Yes.
The accompanying nerve will tell you that this is not a AV malformation spurious vessel, but a common digital vessel.
Yes, sir.
Identify these common digital vessels and take away everything now from the distal part of it and skeletonize it.
Yes, sir.
Now move towards the thenar muscle.
Yes.
And in the thenar space, you have this malformation. And
Yes.
I have a lurking suspicion that your interventional radiologist is going to tell you that the nidus is either intramuscular or subaponeurotic.
Yes.
Skeletonize the entire area. Leave only muscles and nerves and nothing else.
Yes.
And that is the safest way of operating. Now you release the tourniquet. You still have two digital vessels clamped, so nothing is going to go wrong.
Yes.
Now release one of them.
Yes.
Release one of them. Release the ulnar vessel
Yes.
first and see how it flows.
Yes.
If your fingers are pink,
Yes.
you are happy. Try to
Yes.
see the thumb. The thumb
Yes.
will be the last to become pink. If the thumb is pink, it is a glorious day.
Yes.
Now, whatever minimal remaining vessels are there, you can
Yes.
pick and ligate them. If it again starts bleeding profusely, put your digital clamp. You know from where the bleeding has come, go inside and ligate it. So this
Yes.
is how we are going to do it. And this will not be a difficult surgery.
Yes.
This will not be a difficult surgery. It is more like a beard put in just to scare away timid adventurers. It is not going to be
Yes, sir.
difficult.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Lakshmi, if there's no more questions, then we can close it for the day, no?
Sandeep,
Yeah.
what Sandeep ji?
No, if there are no more questions, then I think we will
Yeah.
actually close for us. We can actually tell
Yeah,
the vote of thanks
yeah.
for Sujit sir also.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shalina, for a wonderful presentation. And I would like to thank Dr. Surajit Bhattacharya sir for sparing the valuable time for our plastic waste program and delivering a wonderful guest lecture on AV malformation regarding the in detail from history, anatomy, and how to determine the lesion and various modalities of treatment and participating in the discussion. Thank you very much, sir. And I thank all the other seniors who have attended this program, like Dr. Bhattacharya sir, Dr. Jain sir, and various other teachers, and all participants. Thank you very much.